in 2024, a lot of the narrative that we were all worried about was election subversion, the idea that we'd have an election and then if Donald Trump lost, his supporters would prevent there from being either an accurate count or a certification, essentially, of the results. And ground zero for that was Georgia. And remember, Donald Trump at a political rally actually called out by name members of the Georgia State Election Board. And it's not, like Donald Trump is really good with names. It's that he understood the political importance of this group of people to be able to try to take over the voting process in Georgia. And so as we head towards 2026, that concern hasn't gone away. Like, the only thing that happened in 2024 was that Donald Trump won. But the underlying problem, the underlying election denialism is still present. If anything, it's much worse now because Donald Trump is in office. He's lying from the Oval Office. He's got his Department of Justice raiding Fulton County. And so we all need to, sit back and be ready for what is going to be a bumpy ride this November.
Friends, we're all always looking for our glimmers of hope, and I think too often we ask Mark Elias to be the provider of such hope. But today, I am finding my hope in the voters of Georgia, one of whom confronted the election board today and had this to say.
The SCB already investigated these same Fulton County claims in 2024 and found no fraud, no malfeasance, nothing. But now there are new members, so we're doing it again and again. That is not oversight. That is a vendetta. And this board is still leaving the door open to take over Fulton County elections.
They are banking on people not being that smart and not paying that close of attention. I think is absolutely critical that you have voters who know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, they're also counting on voters not being that brave. Yep. They counted on people not being brave in Minneapolis, and they were wrong. They're counting on people not being willing to stand up like that woman did and just speak the truth. Like, yes, she remembers. Yes, she is able to offer the context, but she's also willing to stand up and look them straight in the eye and say the truth.
Mark, I'm going to, as I noted coming in, over my years of service in politics, you learn a lot, and you learn a lot about ground game and how to execute ground game and how important that is. And a big part of the ground game is, guess what? Turning out your voters, right? And how does a party do that? Party does that in a number of ways. They send out flyers and all those types of things, but they also want to get the ballot in the hands of their seniors who are unable to get to a voting location, to the handicapped. Oh, they're veterans who are serving overseas, to expats who are working abroad but still want to execute on the promise of the franchise by voting in presidential elections, et cetera. The fact that we still have these numbnut Republicans running around, lying to the American people, lying to their constituents about how mail-in ballots are bad, mail-in ballots are fraudulent, it astounds me. How did your behind get elected? Representative Republican, state senator Republican, U.S. senator Republican. It's because your party organization, from the county level to the state level to the national level, ran mail-in ballot programs. So can you help people? Because those folks, they're lost and gone. If you want to believe that's stupid, don't mail your ballot in. Don't just go wait in a long line, do whatever you think you need to do. But for everybody else, take advantage of early voting. Take advantage of the mail-in ballot opportunity. Explain and clarify just a little bit more. I know you've done it before, but I think at this stage it's important as we see, as Simone has noted, this storyline unfold, that people understand, don't believe the BS about mail-in ballots. Overwhelm the process with your vote. Trust the system, because everybody in the system knows it works.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with mail-in voting. I mean, the fact is, as you point out, people like to vote by mail. In fact, you when you were the RNC chair, you kicked my butt and my candidate's butt because you understood the value of driving up turnout by making people who want to vote by mail, giving them that opportunity. And there's absolutely nothing suspicious about mail-in voting. There's nothing inherently problematic about mail-in voting. There are people who like to vote in person, but if you prefer to vote by mail, it's very convenient. And, what's really shameful about what Donald Trump is doing, what's really shameful about what the Republicans are doing here is that mail-in voting also has the benefits of saving states money, allowing states to not have to close as many public buildings because you don't need as many in-person polling locations. You know, it solved a lot of problems, which is why it became very popular, not just in blue states, but in red states. And now you have Donald Trump tearing this down. And yes, it has bad consequences for the 2026 election, it has bad consequences for individual groups of voters. But it's what he's really doing is he's undermining confidence in our democracy itself, in our voting systems itself. And that will be the enduring legacy, not just of him, but all the election deniers who enable him.
I am actually a little perplexed about something the president said today. He said
Only
that
one thing?
That's what I was going to say.
Maybe many things. He said that the Republicans won't lose for 50 years. Take a listen.
I'll tell you what, Republicans have to win this one. We'll never lose a race. For 50 years, we won't lose a race. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship. And we don't want mail-in ballots except for the military far away, except for people that are ill, disabled, or people that are away. Even for a vacation, we'll be generous, okay?
Mark Elias, 50 years seems oddly specific. The White House, the federal government doesn't get to decide who can vote. They don't get to decide who can vote, but they are actively trying to pull us to a place where that is, in fact, the case.
They are, and they want to not only take over how we vote, but who counts the votes. I mean, remember, the seizing of ballots in Fulton County is not about how we vote. It is because they want to contest how ballots are counted. So, you know, if you're Donald Trump, you start by trying to rig the lines for House races. When that fails, you try to exclude who can vote. And when that fails, you just take over the vote counting entirely. But, you know, Donald Trump thinks he's going to, that Republicans will win for 50 years. Well, I mean, I suppose if you put in place a proof of citizenship law that disenfranchises tens of millions of women, like that will help Republicans win elections. If you put in place a rule of proof of citizenship that basically says that Donald Trump gets to decide whether you're a citizen or not, because after all, he's deciding that birthright citizenship, that being born in this country even isn't enough. He's deciding who is and is not out. Well, of course, Republicans will win elections. And finally, you know, if anyone thinks that they can prove citizenship, you know, here's the deal. Donald Trump, in Donald Trump's world, in the Republican world, having a driver's license doesn't prove citizenship. OK, number one. Number two, I guess if you have a passport, they'd say that's proof citizenship. But, you know, number three, a birth certificate. Well, how did Donald Trump come to everyone's attention as a candidate? He came to everyone's attention as a candidate because he said Barack Obama wasn't born in the United States. And when Barack Obama produced a proof of citizenship in a birth certificate, what did Donald Trump say? He said that was a lie. So any of you out there who think you're a Democrat who's just going to show up with your birth certificate, you don't understand Donald Trump's history. Donald Trump thinks he's going to win for 50 years because he's not going to let Democrats prove that they're citizens. He's not going to let them prove that they have ID. He doesn't want them to vote. And if that fails, he wants to have Republicans in charge of the vote counting. That's not me saying it. That's what Donald Trump said.